Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing Epic Effects from Australia in the 5-minute pool, and I'm going to play a Sicilian. I'll decide which line I'm going to play once we get to the tabi-up position, which is right now. I'm going to play a classical, knight c6. And he goes with the Richter Rouser. Okay, let's play this specialty line, bishop d7. Very standard is e6 instead, but I'm rather partial to this variation. So we'll see how it goes. Now, yeah, I'll take first. And then I'm going to play queen a5. He takes me. Yep. So this is a characteristic structure for this line. I just find it fascinating because, yeah, blacks compromise their pawns, but this can get interesting real fast. Do I play e6? I think I play e6 in this position. Even though he can take my pawn on f6, I go rook g8, and then I have play with bishop g7 coming. So that's what I'm going to do. He doesn't take the bait. Okay, now I'm just going to play bishop e7. Crouch behind this pawn formation. This should be an interesting game. I'm going to offer a queen trade, see if he'll take me up on it. He does not. In that case, start pushing some pawns. So b4, he's probably going to put the knight on e2. I could play h5 and try to go pawn h4. I could play bishop c6, although bishop c6 weakens the d5 square. Or I should say the e6 square, and he could push f5 and then weaken my d5 square. I think I'm going to play bishop c6. He might go f5, we'll see. But I have two ways I can respond to that. One, I can stick my queen on e5. That's intriguing. The other is I could push e5. And by playing bishop c6, I'm menacing b4. And he didn't really respond to that, so I think I can just play b4 now, right? And his knight has to go to e2, and then I can grab the pawn on e4. I'm leery of grabbing that pawn because it is right in front of my king on the e-file. But when I grab it, he plays knight d4. I can play either d5 or f5 at that stage. And I think I have a great position ahead of pawn. He seems kind of surprised by b4. Wow, he jumped into the center. I wish I could say I anticipated that move. I should have anticipated knight d5, but it was a surprise still. Well, I could just play bishop d8. Taking, I don't know about taking. Taking, bishop d7. I just don't trust that. Because he can get something on the e-file really quickly. Taking, bishop b7 instead. He takes on c8. I probably take with my bishop. That's more reasonable, but still I don't fully trust it. That's probably the critical line, though. It just looks like the type of thing that's going to be critical here. This is a tough call. I could also capture on d5 and then play bishop b5. Maybe that's the best. No. Kind of at a loss. Okay, I'm just going to... Oh, I can just take on b4, though, if I move my bishop. All right, I got to roll the dice and do this. I got to take. I'm not pleased about this, but we'll see what happens. If he takes on c8, I can take on e4. That scenario doesn't bug me too much. I'm okay with that happening. So I think it's stronger for him to take on d5. Okay, he chooses this route. I'll take here. I think I obtain some compensation now. I really should have anticipated knight d5 and move 17. If you're playing the Sicilian and you don't anticipate a knight d5 move by white, usually the effect is pretty disastrous. The effect can be epic and not in your favor. We're both burning copious amounts of time. What about f5? f5, that pawn might be hard to defend, so let's go here. Next, I'll have to figure out what to do with my king. I'll probably just be castling short and hoping that I don't run into problems down the g-file, for instance. Where are you going with that, bishop? Okay, let's just castle. Still legal to do so. Rook c8. Yeah. So I'm kind of eyeing this c2 pawn. I've got that on my radar. I also want to go bishop d6, e5 if I can. So if he plays like rook c1, for instance, that might be an option. a5. Sound good? Okay, let's just keep going with these pawns. I'm not that worried about h6. He'll probably play it because it's consistent. h6, maybe I'll just hide my king. Just tuck it in the corner. Seems fine. I can't go bishop d6 yet because he can take on e4. So I want to go bishop d6 when he doesn't have such a strong battery going. I think I want to go a3 next, but I want to make him think like that I might go b3 instead. So that's why I haven't moved these pawns. Wow. See, a3 now. a3 or b3? Which one? Let's go a3. I don't see where he's going with this queen, because if ever he plays queen g4, I just play rook g8. Even bishop f8 might be fine. Okay, now he's not going to touch this pawn, because if he does that, queen c3, he's not looking long for this world. So he should do something else. I really like my position now. The time is still a factor, but I've got lots of threats. Like even if he doesn't take me, bishop a4 is the threat, and I'm getting into either c3 or c2. Yeah, he can do that. I want to keep the queens on, but I think trading is the best. Let's just go after that g-pawn. He can take on e4, though, is the thing. He can still do that. So I got to cover the back rank somehow. Let's do this. Let's go here. Attack this rook, this wayward rook. That rook's running out of squares rapidly. Okay, I can take here though. Now bishop e5, threatening back rank stuff. Yeah, this is over. Okay, just take that. Just bring this down.
Check.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my position was very sketchy in the middle game, shortly after knight d5 was played. So let's review. So I played this knight c6, this classical variation, and he responded with bishop g5, the Richter rouser. This is considered to be the strongest move against the classical, and honestly, it's the reason why the classical is not more popular. It's considered to be quite a challenging weapon for black to face, and most of the main lines start with e6, e6, queen d2, bishop e7, castle. So this type of position. Sometimes black plays an earlier a6 as well. But I've just experimented with this bishop d7 system off and on, kind of letting white take on f6 if they want and messing up the pawns. He went queen d2, I played rook c8, and here, I wish my memory of this line was better, but I think queen a5 immediately is also possible, but I think taking is better, because when I take, I get queen a5 with tempo. Now, I thought bishop d2 was the move for him in this position, to threaten discoveries. But the fact that the a2 pawn is often hanging is significant. I'm pretty sure bishop takes f6 is also, yeah, I mean, this is totally playable for white. So here, and now e6. This is interesting. And I've seen several games in this line where even though black gives up the f6 pawn, it just operates as like a line opening pawn sacrifice. So now I would have played rook g8 had this position occurred. And the threat of bishop g7 is significant. White has a hard time coping with that threat. So I think black gets good play in this position. I wonder if he goes back to d4 though, having in mind bishop g7, queen takes d6, if that's a reasonable reply for him. Queen d4, let's just see. Okay, the engine likes that. So maybe my pawn sacrifice wasn't so good, but I'm fairly certain I've seen this idea. Engine just likes bishop h6. Queen c5, yeah, queen c5 immediately also seems really good. Maybe that's more accurate. So maybe on e6 he should have tried to call my bluff with queen takes f6, just grab the pawn. He did not though, he did this, and I got the bishop on e7. So now I have this stodgy pawn structure. Really spiky pawn structure controlling the f5, e5, and d5 squares. I've got the bishop pair, but these doubled f pawns are a liability. And I think he played reasonably well to attempt to exploit them. He brought the bishop out to h3. Here I spent some time, didn't I? Yeah, I spent 45 seconds or so, nearly, deciding what to do. Because I didn't want to play b4 straight away. Because after knight e2, I thought he could easily get his knight to d4. But maybe I should have gone for this. Bishop here. For some reason, I was thinking this was going to inconvenience him more than... or it wasn't going to inconvenience him that much, but maybe it inconveniences him more than I thought it would. Yeah, b4 straight away. Because now, after b4, knight d5 is not nearly as effective. This is a good rule of thumb in the Sicilian, that if you're contemplating the knight d5 sacrifice, and you haven't castled yet, the rook on e1 is usually an indicator of how strong it is. If the rook's not there yet, chances are knight d5 is not working, because you just don't have that extra oomph behind your e-file attack. White has nothing on that file to speak of yet. So I think if I'm going to play b4 and not worry about knight d5, now is the time. Certainly if I knew that knight d5 was coming, I probably would have played b4 here. So let's see what the engine says. Yeah, b4, knight e2, bishop c6. Okay, so I completely misjudged this moment in the game. And it likes my position now. It says I'm a little bit better. So when I hesitate for a single move, let's just see the difference that makes in the eval. I play bishop c6 first, thinking I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. Play b4 when he has a hard time defending the pawn. But nope. He thought for a while here too. Thought for a good 30 seconds. I just totally missed knight d5. I don't know how I missed that, because if I were looking at it from the white side, having way more experience on the white side of these type of positions, knight d5 looks like the most obvious move in the world to me. So I can't really explain why I missed it in this instance from the black side. Let's just see if he's justified in doing it. Yep. Engine agrees, knight d5 is strong. Says I shouldn't take that. A5 it gives. Okay, just defend the pawn. Play it cool. Yeah. I mean, I thought about bishop d8, but I guess what the engine is effectively saying with f of a5, its suggestion here is that if there's a trade on e7, that's not the end of the world for black, so long as we keep the d6 pawn safe. Because we have a nice little nest of pawns here that keep us relatively screened from any bad things that can happen in the center. Although I see the engine is now suggesting e5, just ripping it open. So maybe this is kind of a problem. Take. Ooh, and if I take here, I assume he gets into g5 with disastrous consequences. Oh, man. So it's saying I have to play rook hd8, he takes f6, and now king e8, and pray that I don't get annihilated. So, yep, misjudgment by me. Very interesting 15th and 16th moves. Reversing them would have been better. b4 first. So I took. Yeah, and as I suspected, the computer seems to like e takes d5 better. I was really worried about this possibility. I think I would have done something like, let me just turn the engine off for a second. I would have done something like bishop b7, and then take. Because if he doesn't take right now, if he instead like tries to line up against my bishop, then I have a moment to play rook c7 and kill two birds with one stone, defend my bishop, and get my rook out of the attack. But I was worried about take, and then probably bishop takes, so my queen can stay defending that pawn. Now, if he plays queen e2 to attack e7, that didn't bug me because I thought just queen c7 would keep everything defended. But you know what I was worried about was if he lifted his rook. Like something like rook e3, let's say. Because threatening to double rooks means that queen c7 is not an effective defense. So I was probably going to have to do something like this. Yeah, but I probably just busted, though. Because he can get in here and then just trades rooks and brings the other one in. And I don't have any particular back rank threat or anything. He just easily defends. So I'm going to add the engine now and just confirm, but I think that, yeah, if he took here and I retreated somewhere like this. Oh, and by the way, bishop d7 could be met by queen e2 with problems here. So that was my concern about that move. So I'm going to bet that this position is no good for black, especially with the rook lift idea. Okay, it is saying queen e2 here. What if rook e3? Rook e3, king d7. Okay. So I'm assuming it wants to play bishop d8. And still white's better, but I guess queen e2 right away was even stronger. Queen c7 and rook d4. Ooh, that's another way of getting getting lots of nasty stuff going down the e-file. Now this rook is bound here. Or rook c4. Ugh, that's disgusting. Yeah, this could get gory in a hurry. Here, and isn't rook c4 just good? Queen d7, take. At the very minimum, something like this. Rook e6. Pawns falling everywhere. Yeah, so knight d5 in a slow game, I think this would be almost a decisive move for white. Probably I would get my wits together and play a move like a5, but in a slower game, I don't think I could have survived after he takes d5. Luckily, he took there, and now it's a more stable position. He brought the bishop back, and you know, I've got a pawn and a bishop for the exchange. Plus, his rooks don't play very much at the moment. I think he was a little unsure what to do on the king side. Like, he knew he should be attacking my king, but his pawns provide adequate cover for my own king, which is nice. So I just started trying to make inroads on the queen side. Yeah, and this h6, h4, h5, h6 advance was very time-consuming with little benefit. I mentioned that I wanted to transfer this bishop to e5 if I could, but I didn't want to allow bishop takes e4. That was one tactic I had to watch out for. And if I take back, he can capture on d6, is the thing. So I had to be cautious about that. So a4, h6, I hid my king, queen f4. I am wondering if I had some better move than a3 in this position. I mean, maybe bishop d6 right away, maybe rook g8, maybe b3. b3 is certainly interesting. If b3, I think I might have underestimated something, because I thought take here would be defending for him. But no, I can get into
Check.
queen c2, and then, I mean, something like this is just crushing. But now that I look at it, maybe just rook c1 is good for him. And if
Check.
take on a2, he goes here. And as I was talking about on this wing, this pawn actually functions as a defender for white. He hides behind my pawn, and I can't get at him as easily as I normally would if he had captured on a2. So let's just verify this moment. Computer likes rook g8. Interesting how it thinks like black's much better now. Also likes a3, so it likes what I did. Queen e3, I traded, and then played bishop c5. Okay, computer says I could have captured on b2, was also good. So, I mean, what has happened in the span of time that it took me to get this position versus what we had earlier? You know, that's an interesting question to ask. Because right here, he's up the exchange, or up 1 point of material. He has a rook against my bishop and pawn. I think what happened is he spent a lot of time making pawn advances that didn't do anything for him. In fact, they were harmful because they weakened that g3 pawn eventually. Also, I made progress on the queen side. I coordinated my pieces. I got castled and I brought my rook over. Meanwhile, his major pieces were just kind of sitting here doing nothing. His bishop wasn't activated. So already when we get to this position, you can see white's doing really well. So all it took was that span of like 4 moves right there. Bishop g2, f5, h4, h5, and the evaluation has shifted almost like, you know, 1.5 points, 2 points, something like that. Yeah, now it's very difficult for white. He had me a little bit on time. I was down some time around about here, though. But much easier to be black in this position, right? Okay, I didn't take on g3 because I thought he might have bishop takes e4. But I see now that this I could actually just play rook g8. Okay, and I keep everything defended. I was worried about some incursion of the rook to the back rank, though. So I just played, what, bishop f2 first? Yeah, and I think black is winning this. This dark square bishop is so valuable. I mean, e5 is just an absolute nightmare of a square for him to deal with. Yeah, and this is essentially over. Okay. So interesting Sicilian game, and hope you guys enjoyed that one. Please leave me any feedback in the comments. Thanks, guys.